Hey y'all, how's it going? Welcome back to What Brooke Grows. You'll notice that my YouTube channel has went through a name change. Last year was an absolute whirlwind of a year. I barely posted on YouTube, which I super duper missed. Look forward to more of that coming this year. I got married. She's officially a married lady. My wedding was quite wonderful. And then we went on a 2-week honeymoon to Europe. We went to the UK, we went to England and Scotland, and then we went to Sicily, and it was super amazing. And now we're back, and I am so ready to put my mental space back into the garden and back into content because I have super duper missed making YouTube videos, posting YouTube videos. My Instagram blew up last year. I think I'm up to like 57,000 followers on Instagram, which is awesome. I really enjoyed making that type of content last year, but I want to get back to some longer form content. So in today's video, we're going to talk about what the plan is for next year because it is the end of December. It is time to start planning things because I've always had great success with starting my tomatoes and peppers and all that stuff January 1st, which is in like 4 days. Is she ready? The answer is no, she's not ready, okay? My seed starting closet looks horrifying. But we're getting in the vibes today. I have currently a pot of tomato sauce simmering. I grew some starts, they're like an early San Marzano variety. I think they're called Tyronin, something like that. They've been great. They definitely looked a little rough because we had a bunch of rain, so they cracked, then they healed, then we got a bit of a frost, so they got a little frost nipped. Anyways, they looked fine, but I'm in the spirit. I'm in the garden planning spirit. I can smell this like fresh, delicious tomato sauce in my kitchen. I made some stress seed orders before the wedding that showed up while I was on my honeymoon. So yeah, let's talk about it. I'm really excited to kind of reconnect with my YouTube community. And yeah. Let's talk about what's growing on. So typically, in the past, I've done garden goals. I don't find garden goals really speak to me very much because things can happen. I had a really bad tomato year last year because the weather sucked. The month of May was very humid and damp here, and we didn't get a lot of sun. So a lot of my determinate tomato blossoms rotted right off the plant. And my yields were way smaller than in previous years. So yeah, I don't really do garden goals. I kind of want to shift over to doing garden themes. Now, you might be like, Brooke, what's one half dozen of the other? What's the difference between themes and goals? So goals are like very specific and measurable, whereas themes are like very broad. And I feel like themes allow for a little more room for pivoting, for plot twists, for things changing, right? You can kind of like move faster, you can move slower. When you call it a theme, there's just a lot more room for moving around and pivoting. Whereas when you call it a goal, it's very much like, did I do it or not? Like pass, fail, right? Whereas when you call it a theme, there's lots of things that can exist under that theme. So this is what I was working on the 9-hour plane ride back from my honeymoon, was the hell we're doing this year. Theme number 1 for the garden, building better structures, okay? Last year, you know, they say that baby brain is a thing, which I believe because I know lots of people who have had babies, and man, there's something about it that just really zaps you, okay? And I'm not saying that as a dig, I'm just saying it's a thing that happens. I think wedding brain is similar because my lack of just giving a shit last year about doing anything the proper way was like astounding at how much I didn't care. So we gotta figure that out. So one of them is building better structures. We are actually going to be rebuilding the arch trellis and making it more of like a tunnel. Like we're gonna build it with wood instead of just the T-posts, which I think is gonna be really beautiful. My husband, Cam, he is really excited about that project. We're gonna be rebuilding the old garden bed. So there was a 4 by 16 foot garden bed in our backyard when we moved in. It is rotting away. We had to replace part of the fence over the summer, which we did ourselves. And literally I like walked on top and like compacted the soil a little bit in that garden bed. And one of the like planks on the side just like flew off the garden bed because it was just old and rotting, and it just, so that needs to be replaced. And I think what we're also gonna do is we're gonna move it forward so it's a little more flush, and this isn't gonna make sense until you like see it. But then what I wanna do is actually mulch behind that bed and actually plant corn and sunflowers directly in the ground, because that area gets very damp because of the way that our property is sloped. So we'll see what kind of happens over there. But building better structures, we're also gonna rebuild another one of the beds that it's the other really long 16-foot bed. I didn't brace it in the middle when I originally built it, and so it's like completely bowing out and looks terrible. I think we're gonna restructure, I do have one like tall metal raised bed, and I'm just not loving the way that it's looking for whatever reason, so we're gonna get that figured out. And then blackberries. So we'll talk a little bit more about my plan for that back section, but there's a big plans for that. So we'll talk about the blackberries. So that's one of my themes, is building better structures. Another one is redesigning and tweaking things. So I kind of already talked about this, but we kind of want to just rethink some things, redesign some things, tweak things. This will be, we have been in this house almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years in March. And it's just, we built the garden like very intentionally, but at the same time, now that we've like lived here and we know where the sun goes and we know where the water goes, like there's just some opportunities to kind of build things a little bit better and redesign things and retool things, which I'm really excited about. Another big theme for this year is perennials. So because this is our second year in this house, we have perennials, blackberries, rose bushes, fruit trees. We have a rain garden. We have more things that need, grapes, that's another one, that need yearly care, that are gonna like live in the ground. Whereas, which I know sounds weird, but previously in my community garden and in my rental house, things were so temporary and everything was an annual. So like, it didn't really matter. It could just be ripped out. There wasn't this like constant thought of like the fact that that plant was gonna be there for a long time. So that's gonna be like learning how to do that kind of maintenance and care is going to be another theme for this year. Like I'll be pruning up my peach trees for the first time and like really taking some of the height off of them. And, you know, we'll be dealing with the blackberries and pruning grapes. And so a lot of that stuff I'm super excited about, but it's gonna be a big learning curve. Now, I did the first three because those are all very heavily like content you're used to seeing from me. Now the fourth thing is roses. So you're gonna be seeing a lot of rose content from me this year, and it's because I actually, my great-grandfather, his name was Alfred. He was extremely close to my mom and my grandma and grandpa. He was my grandpa's dad. He was a rose grower. And so kind of how this all came about last year is with the blackberries, I didn't want it to just be like straight blackberries. I wanted some color. And so I kind of experimented in the spring and it was beautiful. I loved it, but I just wanted some kind of permanence with that. And so I was doing some research because planting stuff with blackberries is tough because blackberries can be bullies. Their root structures are really aggressive and really will like crowd out other plants. And so I was doing research, and roses are actually in the same families as blackberries. They're both in the like Rosaceae, not rose whatever family. And so they're really good companion plants. They do really well together. So I was like, okay, cool. Maybe I'll do some roses like in between the blackberries. So that was kind of this like dream. And I kind of knew my great grandpa was a good rose grower, but I didn't understand the magnitude that we were talking about. So my grandpa had passed away last year and we were going through a lot of his stuff, and my mom and my uncle sent me all these really old pictures of his roses. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like, I had no idea. So then I started hearing these stories about how Alfred actually planted a rose bush for each year of his wife's life, so he had 84 rose bushes. 84 rose bushes. Okay, so I was like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever. So I actually reached out to a company called Heirloom Roses, and I sent them these photos and I said, hey, can you help me at all identify these roses? I would like to buy them. So I bought them. I bought 4 rose bushes. I made some content about it on Instagram. Heirloom Roses reached out. They were like, this is so cool. We're all crying. This is amazing. Do you want to be a brand ambassador? Like, do you want to apply? And I was like, yeah, that sounds cool. Because I was planning on buying more roses in the spring anyway. And I told them, I was like, but I know nothing about roses. I have no idea what I'm doing. I am working purely off of vibes. And so we had a great conversation. I got to know them really well. And moral of the story is I am now an Heirloom Roses brand ambassador. And we're going to learn roses together this year. So I'm starting a series both on Instagram and YouTube called Becoming a Rosarian. That's what like rose experts are called, rosarians, which I think is so fun. And so roses are a big theme for me this year. So I have actually 5 rose bushes. I got 4 from Heirloom Roses. Another one I got from a local nursery. It's a gold medal rose. And all of them along the back fence are inspired by Alfred's rose garden. So we're gonna get a few more roses for that. We're gonna get some climbing roses. I'm leaning in hard to their whole rose situation. And I'm really excited about it because I've really started to find this love of flowers over the last few years. I will always first and foremost be a like vegetable and fruit grower. I think that will always really speak to my soul. But I'm really starting to get into, now that I have the space for it, having plants that are just there to be pretty. So stay tuned for that. That's a big theme that I felt like needed some context because you're gonna hear from me a lot about roses this year. And I wanna make sure that, you know, we all know where I'm coming from on that one. So roses are a big theme. And the last theme that I'm not sure how I'm gonna do content about it is, I called it no fuss garden food. And that's because I think I realized this year that really when we eat out of the garden, it is like in the most simple form. Like if I pull a slicer tomato out of the garden, it's to make a tomato sandwich. If I'm pulling, you know, paste tomatoes, all I'm doing is making a tomato sauce. I really want to talk about these foods in like their very simplest of forms because I just feel like the food content of the internet has just gotten like too freaking complicated. And I know that it's all really delicious. Like I fully understand. But I also think that like, for me, my favorite food is very simple food. It's very simple. It's just really letting the ingredients kind of sing. It's like adding a little bit of salt to a slice of tomato and eating it. I mean, it's just, I don't know. So no fuss garden food is kind of another theme of just like really enjoying the produce that you're getting for the flavors that it has. And those are kind of my 5 themes for the year. So really excited about where things are going. I'm really excited that my content is really resonating with people, and I have found some corners of the internet that are becoming a really wonderful and beautiful community out of that. Let's talk about varieties. I hate calling this a seed haul, except that's exactly what it is. I didn't really buy seeds last year. Last year I really wanted to try and use what I had because I do want to not really give into the consumerism culture that can be the internet. However, you know, I feel like buying vegetable seeds is like a relatively unproblematic consumerism behavior. You know what I mean? The moral of the story, I'm doing this seed haul because I needed seeds, okay? I needed them. I'm out of a lot of stuff. And I'm actually super out of a lot of stuff with fall and winter seedlings, which I chaos sowed because I just had heard so many good things about it, and either I did it wrong or it's just not the method for me, but I hate it. Like, I hate it so much. So I won't be doing that again. But let's go ahead and start with flowers. So this was a very funny thing that happened that I realized after I got back from my honeymoon when I was unboxing all of my seeds. I must have been real sick of white flowers, which you will see my wedding flower video very soon. But I must have been real sick of white flowers when I ordered seeds, because apparently the theme is pink, purple, orange, and red. Because wow. And all of my flower seeds, all of my spring flower seeds are from Botanical Interest, and I do have a 5% off code. It is an affiliate link. You can find it in the description if you so choose. So we will be doing Orange Wonder Snapdragons. I have never grown Cinderella zinnias, but I'm very excited about it. So Cinderella Pastel Blend, Giant Purple Zinnia, Queen Lime Orange Zinnia, Queen Lime Red Zinnia, then this QIS Fiery Sunrise blend of Gomphrena, Rubenza Cosmos, Apricota Cosmos, Sonora Zinnia, which I have heard amazing things about, Mazurkia Zinnia, beautiful pink zinnia. So those are just gonna be my general flowers that I'm like kind of dotting inside of the garden beds. And I'm not really one to like pick a color theme, but this one kind of happened by accident, and I'm not gonna lie, when I unpackaged seeds, I was like really excited about it. Now, keeping with the like in bed flower theme, I am gonna grow some smaller sunflowers like in my beds, and those are going to be Goldie Honey Bear, this Eve's blend, which these are all like made for small spaces and small gardens, and then the Dwarf Teddy Bear Sunflower. So these will also go in the beds, just kind of dotted around. The sunflowers that I'm growing that will not be dotted around, and I'm hoping are gonna go, and I have a spot in mind for them, are the Mongolian Giant. So I grew like some really tall giant sunflowers a few years ago and like loved it. Like I just thought it was so cool, and I think it'll be really cool like seeing these big sunflowers grow up like over the fence line when you're like driving past our house. This is so dumb. I have bought this same packet of sunflowers for literally years, okay? And I cannot get them to grow. It is like the most frustrating thing ever. And I buy this same packet every year because there is this dang peach sunflower that I need to grow for my mental health, okay? So I buy this packet every year. I have yet to grow any of them. I also don't like take it that seriously. This year is the year. We're taking this one seriously. It's got beautiful sunflowers in it, and these stupid peach ones, I am just like, I'm determined. This is my year, okay? I'm gonna come back to this video in 6 months and be like, it wasn't my year. And then the only other flower seeds that I bought are this flower mix called Made in the Shade. I'm gonna try and sprinkle these around my rain garden that is in the shade and just see what happens. That area will fill in nicely, but I just want it to be more full this year. And so we'll see what we can do. Okay, so every year I talk about every single tomato I'm growing. This year is no different. Let's talk tomatoes. Okay, so similar to last year, I am restricting myself on tomatoes because I could just grow I could take up my whole entire garden with tomatoes. I freaking love them. But last year I learned some hard lessons in terms of supporting tomatoes, pruning them, growing too many too close together. Like it was a year of hard lessons, okay? So instead of condensing my tomatoes this year, I'm actually gonna attempt to do like a little more of a mosaic technique, and I'm gonna put one slicer in each bed and one cherry tomato in each bed. And then I am gonna put all my sauce tomatoes together. Okay, so all my sauce tomatoes are gonna go together, but then I have 5 beds where I'm gonna have one of each, and then I'm gonna have other stuff kind of mixed into the bed. A pepper, a melon. I kind of experimented with that last year and really loved the way that it turned out. It kind of was really beautiful to just have like some herbs and some squash and some melons, and every bed, it wasn't like row structured, it was a little more mixed in. And I really, really loved that. I did it with one bed. We're gonna expand it this year. So in terms of slicer tomatoes, the 5 that I'm growing, I'm really trying to focus on varieties that I know do well for me and that I'm really excited about. I'm not doing as much experimenting as I have in years past. So I am doing the Ponderosa Pink. These seem to grow really, really well in our area, and they're really tasty. Cherokee Purple, these are my husband's absolute favorites. And my husband has a sandwich for lunch literally every single day, 365 days out of the year, and he only puts tomatoes on his sandwich during tomato season. Okay, and as his wife, it gives me immense joy watching him walk out and pick a tomato for his sandwich. So then we're doing Paul Robeson's. These are my favorite. I want to do a Dr. Weitch's Yellow. We're gonna do those. These are super tasty. I only got one of them last year because we were gone somewhere and our friends were watching our house and they ended up getting like 2 of them, and because it wasn't a good tomato year, we didn't have that many. Anyways, the other tomato that I'm trying for the first time is the Mortgage Lifter. So this is a Mortgage Lifter tomato. It is a extremely popular heirloom and has like a very specific backstory to it. Super easy Google. I would suggest looking at it, but I'm excited to grow this one. So each tomato will have its own bed. It'll have plenty of breathing space. Very excited. In terms of cherry tomatoes, we will be doing almost all ones that I've done before. The yellow pear, these grow amazing here. We're gonna do a Sun Gold. These also grow really well. They're the first to produce during the season and they are the last to stop. I think I'm actually gonna plan on doing these on the on one side of my arch trellis. They seem to do really well with that last year. Also the Sunrise Bumblebee, these are hands down my favorite tasting tomato. Usually none of them actually make it inside because I eat them all outside while I'm gardening. Then we're gonna do Brad's Atomic Grape, which I've done a couple of times before. The last time I did it, I really liked them, but I didn't do them last year. So I'm excited to do them again and give them a little more breathing room. And then the next one that I have never tried before, but I'm excited to try, is this Lollipop Cherry Tomato from Southern Exposure Seed Exchange. And also, usually all of the cherry tomatoes I get from Southern Exposure are like amazing. So, pretty excited for that. Now in terms of paste tomatoes, I didn't bring my whole entire like seed thing down here for paste tomatoes. So I'm really leaning into sauce varieties that like I just 100% know work. One of them is Amish paste. Another one is this Virginia Select Roma. These are also just absolute workhorses. There's a couple of other packets of Roma seeds that I swear by that just do really well every single year. I am trying this Homestead 24 organic tomato. And then the other one that I did a couple years ago that didn't do as well for me this last year was the Eleni Gold. Okay, so there's a couple things I've like severely reduced the amount I'm gonna be growing because like I've learned this lesson lots of times, so like why be dumb again? I am only growing 2 types of cucumbers this year. It gets hot quick here, and there are only a few types of cucumbers that I feel like really work well for that. One of them is the white heron cucumber. Another variety of white cucumber that I've grown plenty of times is the silver slicer, so you can get those seeds as well. And then the other variety of cucumber that I'm excited about this year is this China Jade cucumber. The packet and all the information I read said they do well in the heat, they just prefer some afternoon shade, which is exactly where they'll be going. So I'm really hoping these do well. It is a new variety to me, but by my research, it should do really well. I also saw success with a lot of hybrids that I grew last year, but just depends on if you want to do hybrid heirloom. Up to you. Another one that I am reducing a lot, I'm probably only gonna do like 1 or 2 eggplants. It's always one of those things where like, I like eggplant, but not enough to have like so many freaking plants. They just grow really well here, so I think I get really excited about them every year. And then they just, yeah. So this is a Poamoho Dark Long. It's a variety of kind of like longer eggplant. It does well in the heat, is the moral of the story. Now, the other thing that I am cautiously leaning into are melons. I grew the most incredible cantaloupe last year, like unreal cantaloupe. And part of it was because we had a really wet spring, but also I ended up putting the cantaloupe in the middle of my onion bed, which I had amended with bone meal, which is really high in phosphorus. Apparently melons, especially cantaloupe, do really, really well with high amounts of phosphorus. But the other thing is that was the only plant in the bed. It was because I pulled all the onions and then it was taking off and I'm like, all right. So it was rooting in, it was like rambling along the ground and rooting in and getting more and more and more water. So I think it liked its spot last year, but I'm also gonna I wanna try a couple of other melons. Typically I'm a melon hater and it's mostly watermelon. But I'm trying, okay? So there's a couple of different watermelons. I'm gonna do the cantaloupe. I saved the seeds from last year. I'm gonna try and grow those again. I am doing this Clay County Yellow Meat watermelon. It's a very rare heirloom. It's supposed to be the sweetest, best tasting watermelon. So we'll see about that. I'll be the judge because I'm kind of a melon hater. And then I picked these. These are called Tigger melons. Now, it says that dry conditions produce the sweetest fruit, so I'm really interested to see what these do in our drought-laden summer. But they're like these little mini melons. I just thought they were super cute, kind of fun, and we'll see what happens. So I'm only gonna do a few melons. I just kind of want to test the waters and like see what happens without getting too overly invested in the results. Now on to peppers. Peppers are hard. I've had some good pepper years and I've had some real shit pepper years, okay? I think last year I packed them in too tight for sure. And I mean, last year was just kind of a rough year in general, but my peppers just didn't do as well for whatever reason. So we're gonna try and figure that out this year. But I did get a couple of new varieties. Some I've grown before, some I haven't. I'm gonna do all my traditional ones: jalapeno, serrano, poblano, Anaheim. I do all those for salsas, which are like chef's kiss. Also, what I don't have out here is tomatillos, but I will be growing tomatillos. Again, I found a great spot for them that they are super happy in. So I will be doing tomatillos. Need to figure out some better trellising for them. That's on the list of things to think about. But in terms of peppers, I'm doing all your traditional salsa peppers. So all the peppers I'm going to show you right now are not traditional salsa peppers, but they are just peppers I am either excited about or feel strongly about. So Scotch bonnets. So I actually don't like peppers that are that spicy. However, my husband makes the most amazing Jamaican jerk chicken, like so good. And I grew a Scotch bonnet a couple of years ago. He put all the peppers in the freezer and we are running low. And when I told him that I didn't grow a Scotch bonnet this year, not gonna lie, I was a little upset with me. So I'm growing Scotch bonnets again this year. In my experience, they didn't actually produce until the fall. So yeah, not sure what happened there. The other one I'm trying this year that I'm excited about is the Sugar Rush Peach. So this is a hot pepper, okay? It's supposed to be sweet, tropical, and have a smoky, complex heat. So I got this one because I thought this would be good for salsa, but I also thought this might be fun for Cam to incorporate into his Jamaican jerk as like kind of a new flavor profile. So we'll see what happens with these. The next one is I really want to grow cayenne peppers. So I've heard they do really well. They're really productive. So we'll see. But I am excited to grow cayenne peppers. I think it would be cool to dehydrate them and like have my own cayenne pepper. And I really want to do better with bell peppers this year. I had a really great pepper year a couple of years ago with bell peppers. I mean, just like fat, thick-walled, good bell peppers. We also had a lot of rain that year, so I don't know, we'll see. But for those, I grow King of the North peppers, and these are an early producing pepper, which you're like, Brooke, you live in Texas, why would you need an early producing pepper? Well, the reason is, it gets really hot really fast here, and when it gets too hot, plants will basically just stop setting blooms, which is typically what happens. So if you get a plant and you start it early enough and it's happy and it doesn't get stunted, you can end up with quite a decent amount of bell peppers. And speaking of, I also want to try these really dark purple peppers called Zulu peppers. I just want to try it because, like, why not? All right, let's talk about one of my arch nemesis. Squash. Yes. It is my arch nemesis because of the squash vine borer, which is extremely endemic to this region, and it really sucks to deal with. I am going to try and grow some zucchini because I love zucchini, and some yellow squash. I got a new variety called the Long White of Palermo zucchini. So I just got it because it looked cool. That's literally the only reason. However, I'm trying a new method this year that I learned from a class that I took at a food bank. Long story. But what they do is they keep their squash plants completely covered with netting until the squash plants are really big. And then they uncover them, allow them to pollinate, and that seems to work really well for them to like get a good productive harvest. That's the word. So I'm gonna try that for my summer squash. Now, winter squash, we need to have a conversation about. Do you see this? Hold on. This is like from my shoulder to my hip bone. This thing probably weighs like 10 pounds, okay? This is a candy roaster squash that I grew. And I started it in the fall. If I would have started in the summer, I probably would have gotten more squash. That's besides the point. Anyways, so that squash comes from a family of squashes that I will do the research on and put up here later. Basically, it is a family of squash that root in as they like ramble along the ground, as long as they're watered properly. And so they are able to take the squash vine borer damage. The main stem of this plant, okay, that grew that freaking squash and a bunch of others. The main stem of the plant had a literal hole in the main stem from the squash vine borer. It had lots of damage along the vines. I didn't do a damn thing. Didn't do one damn thing. And it produced that. So I'm very intrigued about this whole situation. So naturally, instead of doing the smart thing and just trying it one more time, I bought a bunch of seeds and we are going for it. So what that means is we're gonna go for it midsummer. So we're gonna get the plant started. I'll probably do a little shade cloth and kind of avoid that squash vine borer season. And then by the time it comes back in the fall, the plants will be really big and healthy and they'll really be able to take the damage. So watching this as a little experiment was super cool. And I went ahead and got a bunch more squash because I love winter squash. I love eating squash. It's like fall and cozy and winter and cozy, and I just think it's the coolest thing, and I would love to eat more of it. So this is all in the butternut family, by the way. So butternut squash are also in this family. So the squash I just showed you is the North Georgia candy roaster squash. It's a very old Southern heirloom. I haven't actually tasted it yet, but it's supposed to be pretty good. Another one in that family is the buttercup squash. You've probably seen these in the grocery store. They have an orange flesh, green skin, and they're commonly replaced for sweet potatoes. Another one is the honey nut squash. It's basically a mini butternut, and it's supposed to be like super condensed in flavor. This one was made famous by Dan Barber, the Michelin-starred chef out of New York. And then the other one is the Seminole pumpkin. So we're gonna give it a shot, okay? Meg grows plants, has grown these successfully, and she also deals with squash vine borer. So we're gonna give these a shot. I don't know why I got two. This is called Seminole Pumpkin, and this one is called Larger Fruited Seminole Pumpkin. I don't know what the difference is. But we're gonna find out together, aren't we? Yes, we are. So that's another kind of fun thing that I'm really excited to try out this year. Now, a couple of other things like deep summer that we need to talk about. So if we redesign this whole like bed situation that I was talking about, I have this, whoa, that was a big vulture. My Lanta, what are you doing there, buddy? Ooh, there's something dead around here. So one thing I like briefly talked about was redesigning this one bed, and then there's like this really wet area right behind it that it's just kind of a wet area of the property. So instead of just like letting it be wet, I would rather grow something in it. So the things that I would like to grow, I have never successfully grown corn, ever. It's never been that important to me, to be honest with you. It takes up a lot of space, it takes up a lot of nutrients, like it's just not something that I've ever been like pumped about. But if we have a spot for it, I could be pumped about it. So I did get a couple of packets of corn with two ideas in mind. Fresh eating corn was one of them, and what I think is called dent corn. Yeah, dent corn. So dent corn is what's gonna be turned into like flour, masa, stuff like that. So the dent corn that I got is called Jelly Course Twin dent corn, okay? I don't remember what color it is, but I read about it and it was exciting. And then the eating corn, like the sweet corn I got, is this Bodacious RM. It is a hybrid. So this is a hybrid corn. So I'm excited to see if we can grow this stuff. What I plan on doing is separating it and doing it like having it in like 3 sections. So having the dent corn on one side, separating it with our sunflowers, little field of sunflowers. And then on the other side, doing the sweet corn. So in my head, that's how it's gonna look. We'll see what actually happens. One thing I may try and do is you can start both anything that's like sensitive to having its roots disturbed, you can start in these like cocoa coir pucks that you then, like you literally start the seed and let it germinate, and then you take the outer casing off and plant it right in the ground. It's something that you have to be like really, really present for, but it can kind of help you ensure some success. So I probably will do that just so I can get all the spacing and everything like perfectly right. But that's another kind of project I'm a little excited for. I'm sure there's more stuff that I'll be planting because that's just how it goes. But these are all the things I was really, really excited to share with you for this year for the garden. There's gonna be lots of projects. There's gonna be lots of things. I'm really excited to get after it. My wedding was dreamy. It was magical. My honeymoon was dreamy and magical. But let me tell you, I am so excited to get back to my real life and enter the next phase. When Cam and I were talking over the honeymoon, you know, we were kind of talking about like, what does life look like, you know, after all of this? And I said, you know, I just think there's like a refined version of Brooke that exists out there. And he said, refined or like refined? Like refined yourself and your content and your garden. And I was like, oh, and that hit me pretty hard. So I'm really excited. Look out for more content. I hope you're excited about your garden. I would love to hear about what your plans for the garden are down in the comment section. And Happy New Year. Happy 2025. It's gonna be a good time. It's gonna be a good year. So thanks so much for watching. Happy gardening, and we'll see you next time.